is nana.misa. I'm a London-based cinematographer, and in today's video I'm going to take you guys through my Pocket 6K rig. I'm going to talk you guys through how I set up the rig, why I set up in this way, and the different scenarios that I use this rig for. So let's jump straight into the video and let me explain to you guys why I have this rig set up in this way. So the way I like to shoot is I like to do a lot of handheld shooting. It's my favorite way to shoot because it gives me a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom in terms of being able to move quickly, because some of the work I do does involve a lot of run and gun work, even for my client work as well. In cases where I do know it's going to be an all-day shoot, anywhere between 4 and 8 hours, I will use an easy rig for this rig. As I like to shoot handheld a lot, I needed the rig to be able to be easy to hold and easy to stabilize in various different shooting angles and shooting positions. This rig allows me to do that, as in some scenarios I'll stabilize the camera by holding the left side handle as well as the right side of the camera and getting that level of stabilization. In other scenarios, I will hold the left side handle and the top handle to get shots in that way and allow me to get lower angles. I also like, in certain scenarios, if I'm going to be holding the camera handheld for long periods of time, I like to have at least 3 points of contact, and in those scenarios, I'll hold the camera with the left side handle and hold the right side of the camera, and then I'll push the camera against my chest to give me that third point of contact. I also like to have a rig that's quite compact. I don't like the rig too tall or too wide, as I feel that's a little bit more hard to balance, especially when you're doing it handheld. As you can see here, I'm holding it with 2 fingers. It's not super light, but as you can see, it's still got a good center point of gravity. The ergonomics of this top handle makes holding this camera quite easy. Okay, so now let me take you through how I set up this rig. So let's start with the cage that I use. I use the small rig half cage. I like this cage as it's not too bulky, it's not too heavy, and still has all the mounting points that I need to make things work. Next, I'm gonna add this small rig Nato Rail onto the top part. Now I'm adding an SSD holder for my Samsung T5. So next I add this small rig 15mm rod clamp. Next, I'm adding this Falcam F38 quick release plate. This allows me to detach the camera and the cage from the rig if I need to do this quickly. Next, we have the small rig 15mm rod base plate, 2 6-inch carbon fiber rods, and a small rig dual 15mm rod clamp. I attach the base plate of the Falcam F38 onto the small rig 15mm rod base plate. I then take the 6-inch rods and add them to the dual rod clamp. Then I attach them to the 15mm rod base plate. I then attach a Manfrotto base plate to the bottom of this base plate, which allows me to put the whole rig onto a tripod if needed. So now at this point, I attach the camera and the cage to the base plate. Next, I'll take a mini V-mount plate and attach that to a Nato clamp monitor swivel mount. Next, I'll take a Nato rail and attach that to the back of the base plate. This will allow me to attach the mini V-mount plate onto the back of the camera. So next, I'm gonna add the lens. Next, I attach a small 15mm rod onto the 15mm rod clamp at the top of the cage. I attach the follow focus onto the 15mm rod that's on top of the camera. Then next, I attach the side handle, which allows me to manage the follow focus, to the 15mm rod that's attached to the base plate. Then I connect the side handle and the follow focus with a micro USB to micro USB cable. Now I'm gonna attach the top handle and the monitor. So I attach the swivel mount to the monitor. I attach the top handle to the Nato rail that's on top of the cage. Then I attach the monitor to a Nato clamp, which I've attached to the front of the top handle. To power the monitor and the camera, I use a SWIT 99 watt-hour battery, and that attaches to the mini V-mount that I attach to the back of the camera. So next, I'm going to attach a HDMI and USB-C cable clamp to the cage. This is essential, in my opinion, if you have a 6K or 4K, because this will protect your HDMI and USB-C ports. Then next, I'll add on a mat box, and this is a small rig mini mat box. I really like this mat box. It's really nice, compact, and lightweight. I'll then attach a D-tap splitter to the side of the V-mount battery using a bit of Velcro. I'll then wrap around any excess wire just to have a little bit of tidy cable management. Then I connect the D-tap splitter to the V-mount battery. To power the monitor, I attach a dummy MPF to D-tap battery, and then I attach that to the D-tap splitter, so that's giving power to the monitor. I'll then take a D-tap to Pocket 6K power adapter cable and attach that to the camera, and then attach that to the D-tap splitter. This is what's going to power the camera. Then I connect the SSD drive to the SSD holder, connect the SSD to the camera. I'll make sure the SSD cable is held securely by using the HDMI and USB-C cable clamp. Next, I'll take a HDMI cable, connect that to the monitor. Then I take that cable, connect that to the camera, and make sure that that's securely in place using the clamp once again. That's the setup for the Pocket 6K. As you can see, it's fairly compact, fairly lightweight, and does the trick for what I need. I'm just going to talk in a little bit more detail about some aspects of the rig and why I've set up in that way and why it's essential in order for me to get the best out of the Pocket 6K, and ways I adapt the rig slightly. So let's talk about power solutions. As many of you know, the Pocket 6K is not great when it comes to battery life. So for this, I use a V-mount battery. An essential part for this to all work for me is having a V-mount setup that allows me to also be able to see the monitor, because where I've placed the battery covers the monitor. And as you know, the Pocket 6K original, which I'm using, does not have a tilting screen. So the V-mount plate has to be connected to this monitor swivel mount. It allows me to angle and move the V-mount plate in order for me to be able to see the screen if I need to access the screen. I got this idea from Caleb Pike, DSLR video shooter, for his Pocket 4K rig setup. And having this is essential because it also allows me to position the V-mount battery in a way that keeps the rig compact. The V-mount allows me to power both the camera and the monitor, so it powers nearly everything on this rig setup. The only thing that is not powering is the Tilta side handle, which is powered by an MPF battery. I'm going to talk about the follow focus that's on this rig setup. Now, the follow focus is the Tilta Nucleus Nano. In the past, I often felt I really didn't need a follow focus because a lot of the lenses that I was using were still lenses, so the focus throw was not that long on it. I never had an issue just focusing with my hand, and I was comfortable doing that, so never felt the need for a follow focus. I'm starting to change out a lot of my stills lenses to cinema lenses, and for a lot of my shoots I will either rent out cinema lenses, and in the case of what you're seeing on this rig, you're seeing the Vespid Prime 25mm lens. The focus throw on these cine lenses are a little bit longer than I'm used to, and when I'm doing run and gun work, managing focus with just my hands, sometimes I'm not getting super accurate focus, so having a follow focus to manage that helps a lot. And what is great about the follow focus system that I have, I've combined using a side handle for the added stability, but that also gives me the option of controlling the follow focus, as the side handle is from Tilta and you can control the Nucleus Nano by just connecting a cable between the two, and I find that super handy. So the matte box that is on this rig is the small rig mini matte box. Now, once again, similar to follow focuses, I never really used to use matte boxes or find the benefit of them. I knew they had a purpose, but a lot of scenarios I felt I didn't need them. Well, I thought I didn't need them. One of the big uses of a matte box is the flag on top of a matte box, and that is to cut out light from hitting your lens and reduce any kind of flaring. Now, although a lot of the time I'm not always filming outside, but even when you're filming indoors, if you're filming on a set where there are a lot of lights, I've noticed that you can get some flaring from those lights hitting your lenses. And that was something I didn't really realize until I was on the set, and I saw another camera operator with a matte box, and he was showing me why it's essential, because it can help cut some of that. Another reason why I didn't use matte boxes was that I used the Tilta matte box. It didn't allow me to use my variable ND because you weren't able to attach it and turn it at the same time within the matte box. But whereas this small rig one does. So this comes in super clutch for me, and I don't need to then go and rent out square ND filters if I need to use ND. So as you can see on the rig, there are lots of parts which utilize Nato rails and Nato clamps. And I love having these because it makes assembling and dismantling this rig a lot easier. And another big thing about this rig is in certain scenarios when I'm doing run and gun work, I may need to detach the camera from the rig. And that's why, as you saw in the setup video, I had a F38 quick release plate from Falcam, which allows me to be able to detach the camera, and this allows me to do that a lot quicker. Also, with the type of work that I do, sometimes that involves sit-down interviews, this rig allows me to just quickly remove the side handle, and I'm able to pick up the whole rig and just place that onto a tripod. So when I was showing the setup, I mentioned that I record onto SSDs. I mainly tend to use the Samsung T5 1TB SSD, but in some cases, if I know I'm gonna have a super long day of shooting, I'll use the 1TB Samsung T5, and I'll also bring the Sandisk Extreme Pro 2TB SSD. And what I've done is I've just attached a little bit of Velcro onto the side of my SSD holder, and what I can do is I can mount the Sandisk SSD onto that so that I can have this on the rig, and whilst I'm filming, if I run out of memory on the T5, I can just connect the Sandisk and continue filming with that. I want to talk a little bit about the monitor that is on this rig, and once again, sticking with the theme of keeping things compact, I'm using a 5.5-inch monitor, and that monitor is the Feelworld F6. This is a touchscreen monitor. I really like this monitor. It's not the brightest monitor, still provides a good image, and it's touchscreen. As you saw in the setup, I used 15mm rods in order to allow me to attach things such as a follow focus or the side handle. Now the 15mm rods that are on the base plate of this setup are the small rig carbon fiber 15mm rods, and I chose these because they're lightweight. I like the look of them as well, and I chose the 6-inch ones because, once again, wanting to keep the rig as compact as possible. When I am shooting with bigger lenses, I will use these 8-inch carbon fiber rods from small rig once again, because they're a little bit longer to fit a longer lens and also allow me to put a lens support on them as well as attach the side handle. As you saw when I set this up, there was no external mics added onto the rig. There are scenarios where I will need audio, and in those scenarios I use two things. I'll either use a Rode Wireless Go if I'm laving up talent, or a shotgun mic, which will be the Rode Video Mic NTG. For the Rode Wireless Goes, what I'll do is I'll just attach a cold shoe adapter to the bottom of the cage, and I'll just screw this in, and then I'll place receiver onto this, connect a cable to the 3.5mm jack on the Pocket 6K, and obviously the transmitter will be attached to the talent, or in some cases it will be attached to a boom mic, so to reduce the amount of cables dangling around when I have a boom set up over talent. The other scenario where I attach audio, as I mentioned, was the Rode Video NTG. I'll place the mic on the cold shoe at the top of the cage, connect the 3.5mm cable to the mic, and then back into the Pocket 6K like I did with the lav. So that's my Pocket 6K rig. As mentioned, rigs will evolve over time. I'm sure this rig is going to evolve as well in the near future. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I place links in the description to all the pieces that I've used in this rig. For those pieces that are discontinued, what I'll do is I will give you some alternatives that I think you should use, and some pieces on here as well were taken from other pieces where they don't sell individually. With those, similarly, I will give you alternative options, which I think will be good for your rig setup. Just for transparency, some of those links will be affiliate links, so if you do purchase from those links, I will get a little bit of commission from that sale. That will help support me and the channel, but I just wanted to be transparent with that. I hope you enjoyed the video and enjoyed my rig setup. If you did, let me know what you thought of the setup, or give me any tips or feedback that you think would make this rig a little bit better. I'll be glad to hear it. But for now, once again, really appreciate you watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It'll be much appreciated. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.